Inspiration has struck.
It was the big eureka moment.
And I think if you want to understand a work of art better,
scrap that idea.
talking to the personal people who created it in the spaces in which they've created
That
it
was my grandfather clock.
is a fantastic way in.
I think that's it.
In the Studio. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts or go to bbcworldservice.com/in the studio.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. I'm Ed Butler, and today I'm heading back to school, a Chinese school in Shanghai, where the dream of a better education for a better future has long been a cherished aspiration. But is the thirst for languages, for better maths, better science, offered by a few private establishments here, adding to the gulf between the haves and the have-nots? Business Daily after the news.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. A second and final deadline is about to expire for the head of the regional government of Catalonia to inform the Spanish government whether he will activate a declaration of independence. Spain's central government has pressed Carles Puigdemont to confirm whether Catalonia intends to secede. If he does, Madrid has threatened to remove the Catalan government's autonomous powers. The Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been given his own political theory, entrenching his position at the top of the ruling Communist Party. An announcement at the party congress in Beijing said the president's ideas would be known as Xi Jinping thought. He's the first Chinese leader since Deng Xiaoping to lend his name to a political theory. The British banking groups HSBC and Standard Chartered are likely to be investigated over new claims that they may have unwittingly been used to launder money stolen from the South African state. The British Finance Ministry has referred allegations raised by the former Cabinet Minister Lord Hayne to the Serious Fraud Office. New Zealand's Labour Party will form the country's new government in a coalition with the small nationalist party New Zealand First and the Green Party. The Labour leader, Jacinda Ardern, who only took up the role in August, will be Prime Minister. New Zealand First agrees with Labour on limiting immigration and foreign ownership. New figures show that China's economy grew 6.8% in the third quarter. The figures were in line with expectations. Observers say the data will add weight to the Chinese government's assertion of good economic management. And scientists in Germany have documented a steep decline in the population of flying insects in less than 30 years. The study, carried out in 63 German nature reserves, showed a loss of more than 3/4 of the total biomass of flying insects, butterflies, bees and moths. BBC News.
Hello and welcome to Business Daily here on BBC World Service. I'm Ed Butler, and again today I'm in Shanghai in our second look at the growing inequalities of China's modern economy. Yesterday the focus was on rural workers in the cities. Today we're looking at the increasingly two-tier education system.
It's intensely competitive to get into the top schools. The imaginative kid, the weird kid, they're just not going to get in.
Letting children of 4 or 5 years old to just have fun is not enough at all.
Do some schools go too far?
Yeah, some schools go too far, and some parents go too far.
A blind busker playing his traditional Chinese fiddle on a crowded shopping street. The few affluent passers-by are throwing him coins. The economic disparities in China, as in most major economies, have become increasingly apparent these days. But in a country nominally founded on socialist principles, the question does seem rather more pressing. What's being done about it? For those born in poverty, is there a pathway out? Is, for example, the education system serving all citizens equally? I've come away from the city centre to one of the suburbs of Shanghai. I'm at one of the more exclusive private educational establishments here, a fee-paying primary school. There's only about 10 or 15 of these across the entire city. They're not exactly commonplace, but they are extremely sought after. Fees can range up to $25,000 a year. That's twice the average annual salary in this city. But clearly there is no shortage of demand. Hello. So I've just stepped into a classroom here and there's 41 children.
Yeah.
How old are these children?
Maybe 12, 13,
And how long have they been studying English?
from grade 1,
So what age would that be?
4 or 5.
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Derek. I like playing basketball.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a doctor.
How much English do they have to do each week?
7 classes.
Is that the main reason they come to this school, for the English?
Yeah, because it's much better than in public school. Yeah.
Thank you for seeing me. Bye-bye. That's the sign for the end of school. Hello, what's your name?
My name is Amy.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
How old are you, Amy?
I am 6 years old.
And you speak really good English. Do you like the homework?
No.
Not your favourite thing, but you do your homework. I'm going to turn now to your dad. Hi, what's your name?
Amaya.
Amaya. Why didn't you send your child to a public school? Why is paying thousands of dollars a year important for her education?
Public schools focus on just studying, like more academic. All of their life is just about homework, and homework. But for my child, private school offers classes on art, music, dancing, and playing drums. She's very good at playing drums, so that's more about to make her brave and to make her happy. Another very important reason is that I think your social network is a very crucial thing to consider. I have my own startup companies, and I know that for adults, your social network is just so important, not only for your business, but for your life and everything. And I think it's same for the kids. And also, it's a good chance for us as parents to build up a good social network.
So basically you're saying the right kind of parents and children are at this school?
Well, I won't say it's the right kind, but for example, those migrant workers school, those students there are just so different because the way they see things are different and the principles are different. So I want my daughter to grow up with people have the same values.
In the last 30 years, Chinese economy growing and start to see the emerging of the middle class.
Lin Min set up the Shi Wai International School in 2004. He himself had studied and worked overseas for almost 20 years, just like many of the parents who now use his services.
Those middle-class people, many of them have been abroad and have degrees from foreign universities. They start to work in the foreign joint ventures. They start to have their own business. They become professionals. They obviously want to have a broad international education for their children.
How many schools are there like this, private selective schools in Shanghai? How much of the school market do you support?
Actually, it would be a very small portion, and it's relatively new phenomenon. In Shanghai, I think about 10% of the students are studying in the private sector, and schools which have bilingual international components, even smaller. Maybe we're talking about 2 to 3%.
So is that multilingual thing is a big part of it?
Yes. Most parents firmly believe if their kids can speak good English, they're able to move around, able to have best career in their life.
I mean, you are oversubscribed,
yes.
Right?
Yes, we are.
I mean, only 1 in 5 children successfully get in, right? So how come, if schools like this are in such high demand, there aren't more of them? Why doesn't the market provide what the people of Shanghai are asking for?
A shortage of principals and teachers.
So it's the shortage of the talent at the top end?
Yes, because it's the relatively new form of education. Not many people who have this sort of training, particularly if you say you want to have a bilingual international school, you got to have bilingual international teachers.
With so few good private schools, the pressure to get into those that exist is enormous. The ratio of applicants to places can be 10 or even 20 to 1. Over the summer, there was a storm of protest in China when parents complained that 2 schools had subjected them, the parents, that is, not their kids, to IQ tests. Mums and dads were asked about their background, even the backgrounds of their parents, the kids' grandparents, presumably to weed out those considered undesirable. Amidst considerable outcry, the city authorities stepped in. They punished the schools in question by cutting the number of places that they could offer. But you might think, that's just made the competition for places even worse. To get a sense of what the pressure is like now on parents and their kids to make the grade, I've come to meet Jessica Ling. She runs a private kindergarten in Shanghai where she prepares 5-year-olds for these all-important exams.
This year, the parents need to do a lot of surveys and interviews. And I also heard several primary schools also require that one of the parents have to be full-time housewife or house husband. And also I heard one school actually denied the enrollment of a kid because his or her parent don't have a very good physical figure.
They turned down a child because their parent was overweight?
Yes, that's true. The school would think that you cannot manage the domestic diet well, which can lead to that you cannot manage your children well. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
You're caring for 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. How much of their time is now devoted when they're here to studying just to pass this exam?
Letting children just have fun or just to develop their own interests is not enough at all, because when in the first class of their primary school, they have to read characters already, they have to already know all the Chinese alphabets, they know nothing. So that's why the whole 4 years experience of the kindergarten is a gradual accumulation of knowledge of what is needed in primary school.
Do you think some children struggle under the amount of pressure?
I don't think the kids themselves have too much pressure. It's mostly the anxiety of parents.
So the parents feel the anxiety, and that may communicate itself to the children. I mean, most of these children, let's face it, are going to fail these exams. The best schools all say they're only taking 1 in 10, 1 in 15 children, right?
That's right. One of the very well-known primary schools in Shanghai were looking for 60 students only for their first grade, and they ended up with applicants of 20,000 across the city. And 10 of those 60 selected are from our kindergarten. Their parents were thrilled, of course, but I was not particularly happy because I already went abroad to the United States, and I see the outside world, and I felt students their age already learned too much.
So children are getting all of this academic education here at the kindergarten. Are some parents getting extra tuition on top of all of this tuition you're giving them?
It's quite normal too.
That sounds like an enormous amount of pressure to put on a 6-year-old, isn't it?
That's true. That's a lot for a 6-year-old. Just before you arrive, I was actually just talking to my staff about whether we should build a school towards what the parents want or what the children need, to let kids experience more at their stage instead of just competing to go to a better primary school.
Kindergarten owner Jessica Ling. So what's the government's view of all this elitist fee-paying education and the pressure that it creates? I asked the private school head teacher, Min Lin.
On the whole, I think they are very supportive. And they always feel that because the society is changing, you need the private sector to provide the special educational services.
But some schools have been overstepping the mark when it came to selective testing of children. Do some schools go too far?
Yeah, I think, some schools go too far. And some parents go too far.
How much pressure do you put on the children? How much homework do you make them do?
Actually, very little. I always feel that